Today we're going to look at the Pythagorean Theorem. The Pythagorean Theorem, you have heard many times before, is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. It is used to find one of the remaining sides of a right triangle, and that's the key. It must be a right triangle. A and B are represented as what we call our legs. And C is what we call this crazy word. Why it's called hypotenuse, I really have no idea, but C is my hypotenuse. And just to keep in mind, C is always opposite our right angle, our 90-degree angle. And anytime I'm given one or two of the three sides, I can find the other side using some simple mental math here. So, the Pythagorean Theorem only works again for a right triangle, and I can find one of the missing sides. So let's take a look at an example here. As you see, I am missing one side at the bottom. We'll call it side B. I know A, which is 20 inches, and then my hypotenuse, C. The hypotenuse is always going to be the larger side. If you're doing the math and it comes out that it's not the larger side, then you probably did something wrong. So, nothing more than plug and chug. Plug in 20 for my A, X for my B, and 25 for C. And this is what I should have. From there, it's just simplifying our squares. Simplify 20 squared and 25 squared to get 400 plus x squared equals 625. Do a little math. We're going to get the x squared by itself, so subtract 400 to get x squared equals 225. And then the last thing, just like any equation, I need to completely get x by itself. So I must do the opposite of the square and take the square roots of both sides. So when you take the square root of 225, you get x to equal 15. Always remember your labels. I'm looking at inches. So my side B comes out to be 15 inches. And again, if I were to work backwards, maybe plug in this for B, 15 squared and 20 squared, it should come out to be 625. And that's basically all there is to the Pythagorean Theorem. One last example, sort of a real-world example. Let's look at a tree. We have a certain tree that's 15 feet tall, and the cast will call it a shadow of 8 feet. Sun shining down on it. Well, if you wanted to go up, maybe it's an apple tree. We'll draw, I'm not really a good artist, but we'll draw a little apple. It looks like a heart. Just bear with me. That's a beautiful apple. We'll draw an apple tree here. Let's say we wanted a ladder going from the shadow up to the very highest point of our tree. Well, how can we do that? Well, yeah, let's use the Pythagorean Theorem because we're looking at this right triangle. Here's my A and B. That's my C, my hypotenuse. So let's plug in our values. Do a little simplifying. A little bit more here. We have 289 equals x squared. And you can go back if that's a little too quick for you and check out my math. And then how do you get x squared by itself? We just did this. Square root of both sides. You get x to equal 17. Label with feet. So, we have a tree 15 feet, casts an 8-foot shadow. I would need a 17-foot ladder to reach the very top of my tree. That is Pythagorean Theorem. Just make sure you double check my math, and we'll see you tomorrow.